The Big Sale Illuminati, where some of the best in the business discuss what's worked, what's working, and what's failed in selling big sales. Our panel of experts includes Clarity Seeker, a black belt of brands, our snarky marketer, Monique de Maio. CEO to CEO selling is his game. Fortune 500 in his lane. The Lex Luthor of the close, Mark Kennedy. The effective executive, a force on the boards, a buyer on fire, Tiffany Olson. David versus Goliath selling, the prince of process, Sun Tzu of big sales strategy, Tom Searcy. And that's your panel. Now it's time to talk about big sales.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of Big Sale Illuminati podcast. We have our snarky marketer, Monique de Maio. We also have Mark Kennedy, who is the Lex Luthor of the close. We have the buyer on fire, Tiffany Olson, and I am the Sun Tzu of sales strategy, Tom Searcy. Today, we want to talk about the idea that there is a magic curtain behind which all buyers stand, and they have amazing conversations or bad conversations or whatever it is, and we're not in on those conversations. Well, we have our buyer on fire, and she knows how to tell us what the hell goes on behind the curtain. What are the closed door secrets of the buyers that are out there? And I've asked Tiffany to help us kick this off and run us through this, because she's the magic behind the curtain. So Tiffany, let us get going.
Tom, I've been called a lot of things. The magic behind the curtain, now that's a first for me. But I will tell you that executive buyers do have a secret society.
I knew it.
I knew this. I think it's like why women go to the restroom together, because we wonder what goes on in there.
Those secrets we take to our grave, though. But I will tell you that this one we can unpack, because it's really all about limiting your access. Because that's the way you get stressed, then it's the only, we're controlling the information that you're getting fed. And the reason why is because we think that that gets us the best deal. So let's talk about how we outplay these players. And we're going to do it through some scenarios. So let's see what all of you have up your sleeves. But in each case, I'm going to give you each a scenario. We'll kind of talk through that. But remember that this is the deal that is going to skyrocket your career. It is going to change your business. And it's the biggest deal you've been involved in. You're the lead person. So this is high, high pressure. You have been losing sleep over this. All right. So we're going to first start with Monique. So Monique, here's kind of the scenario. You've been ghosted. So you have a very strong supporter. But this person, this woman, although she can't sign the check, she claims that no matter what she says, it's just going to be rubber stamped by that CEO. So you can trust her. She's got your back. She's going to make everything happen. And you've tried to reach the CEO, but you've been ghosted. You've been pushed down. So it's a Saturday. You had a rough Friday. You don't want to make lunch. You're in McDonald's. See the CEO. Let's call her Tiffany. No, let's call her young Tiffany. And she's in line ahead of you. She orders 15 kids' meals. What do you do?
Wait, first of all, I would never be in McDonald's, so this is such a great example of like fantasy. But being ghosted is not a fantasy, and that has happened to me. So I have a question.
Yes.
She doesn't know me, right? She's never seen my mug.
She does not know you. Mm-mm. She knows that this is going on. She knows that the sale is going on. She knows your sponsor, but she has not met you before.
Well, so I would immediately know that this woman is going to some youth sport team thing, 15 kids meals, and I would immediately ask her if she needed help and say, "Oh my God, been there, done that. What sport are you supporting today? What's Junior doing?" And just make little chit chat conversation and immediately offer to walk out and help her to the car with these 15 meals immediately. And then I'd say, "It was great chatting with you, Tiffany. I know you might not know me, but my name is Monique, and I'm da 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 da." And I think our teams know each other. I think I'll be seeing you in a couple weeks. Have a great game. Hope Junior wins. Rock on.
Yes, I'll tell you what, I love the fact that you offered to help right away. Carried the food out, you get more face time, you're with that person even longer. I think a short, and I loved the, hey, our teams know each other. Take another 30 seconds. You've got her. You're holding her food. She's not going to be able to leave without you putting that food down. And give a little elevator speech on that 60-second, 30 seconds of what you are doing. And then I got to ask you, would you follow up on Sunday with an email?
Absolutely. I'd be like, hey, Hope Junior won. And the subject matter would be, I heard Junior won. Or if they didn't win, say, heard it was a great game. Great to see you at McDonald's. Looking forward to, our team's meeting on Thursday, the 23rd. Something high level, warm, personal.
Absolutely love the email on Sunday, because this is one of the secrets that you may not know, and that's that Sunday almost every CEO is going to be checking emails because it's going into that Monday. So if you send it sometime on Sunday, and if it's got a personal tag to it like that, Monique, that gets read. It's going to get read. It's on top of mind. They walk in on Monday, and the first thing that young Tiffany is probably going to do is go to your sponsor and say, hey, I ran into Monique this weekend. Wow, she's great. I'm looking forward to Thursday. I want prep before that meeting. Let me know how they're doing. So it really provides, I think, that in. So the secret, when you run into someone, make sure you've got that elevator speech, that you're warm, you follow up maybe on that secret day email, and that it's really personal. So really good. Tom or Mark, any other comments to add?
Overall, the idea of the personal touch is probably one of the most important part. I think the idea of the openness, vulnerability, etc., got to have it. And like you said, you got to personally connect to them, which is what I liked about what Monique said as well.
Well, your CEO probably owes you one. They realize they've ghosted you. So there's an open window, a little bit of an open door there that you can probably lean into. But yeah, I think you've hit the scenario pretty hard in the head.
Yeah, I think the helping carry out with the food, that's a real nice personal touch that I think goes a long way for someone who's probably stressed and worried about time and having to get these meals and having to try to balance everything. So good job. All right, Mark, you ready?
I was born ready.
So you have been invited to give an executive presentation. This huge RFP, totally high pressure. And there are 3 companies that are going to present. They're each going to get 20 minutes. And you have a very strong supporter sponsor in the room, but they're just part of the team. And you have never had a chance to meet the CEO or CFO. Those 2 are also going to be in the room, and they obviously are part of the team with some big votes. Now, you have heard that the CEO, and we're going to call him Tom, chronically late, leaves early. So you're getting ready. You're going to have to go into this presentation soon. What do you do?
Well, we're clearly dealing with a make believe situation because I would never be in a situation responding to an RFP without having met the C-suite first. But I will humor you as the buyer on fire and go through this process. So I took a few notes. Thank you for the pre-notes for these. That was really helpful. So the first thing I would say as I was preparing my team for this presentation, this 20-minute presentation, is we're not going to win the deal in the room. We can only lose it. So the 20-minute meeting itself is a charade, and it is a compliance exercise where you can only mess it up if you come in and don't hit the talking points on the head, or you're somehow not likable, approachable, you offend someone, etc. So you're only going to lose the deal in the room because there is no such thing as an objective comparison. So they may say they're going to score this on an objective basis. People may submit multiple votes, but as we all know, not all votes are created equal, and someone has already chosen who's going to win, and they're looking to use this presentation to build alignment on their team around why they've made the right decision already. So that's the first basis of my story, and the dark and clouded behavior that is indeed in the 5 inches between my 2 ears, and these wonderful Jabra headsets. See, I worked that in there. So the next thing is the second thing is having the CFO in the room is a godsend. I think it's the greatest thing I've ever heard. You never get those people in a room like this. I think it's a home run because they are going to finally get a chance. All of the presentations I put together are economically based. Every problem I work on is ultimately a function of dollars and risk. And having that person in the room is huge because typically what I'm doing is I'm educating a chief marketing officer, I'm educating a head of digital, I'm educating a head of performance marketing how to support and how to defend these programs in CFO speak. So my job half the time is to just prepare. Remember, it's never about who you're selling to, it's whom they account for and who they're accountable to. That's the people you're always selling to in the room as part of the masterclass in sales. So having that CFO in the room is huge. And I also know that the CFO and the CEO are probably both board members. That makes them both fiduciaries, which means if they have a bona fide, impactful material economic offer on the table, which I would only put in front of them, they really, really are obligated to give it full consideration. So that gives you great power as a salesperson when you talk about being the prize and owning the room. So let's talk about the CFO first, CEO for a second, and Tom's notorious distractibility and desire to leave the room quickly. So here's how I would deal with that straight up. There are a couple things that matter. So think about who are the external factors that the CEO is going to have to explain this program to. And the first thing I would start with and focus with as I was preparing for my presentation and delivering it, this is the strategy before you get in the room, would be quarterly. I would be focused on their quarterly analyst updates. So and when I was in the room with the CEO, I would literally start my presentation off and I would say, this is a program that is going to generate a profit stream for your business of over $200 million at steady state. You are going to get to explain this program to your quarterly analyst updates beginning in 90 days from today. What's the most important thing that you're concerned about that they're going to ask you that you can't answer right now? I would literally engage the CEO at the beginning of the presentation with a question like that. The second question I would hit him or her with is I'd say, you're going to have to explain this program to your board in 2 weeks because this is going to be an investment that's going to hit the board level. What is it about the board members that are going to concern you about this type of a program that you can't explain? And then at the end of it, I wouldn't ask them this, but I would make sure that Tom could explain this program to his wife, his buddies at the golf club, or whatever in a way that makes Tom sound smart. So those are the three things I'd focus on, the externalities. And when it comes to being in the room, the in the room part's pretty simple. What I do is I get there early enough, and assuming, let's say, if I'm presenting in the front of the room, I don't use slides, by the way, but if I'm presenting in the front of the room, I've got the door to my left. I would put the CEO on the table to my right, and I would have them as close to me as possible so I could very much directly engage. And I would use two things around their propensity to leave early. The first is I would use some humor because I tend to play that way to create a more personal and a situation where people are more likely to receive the message I have that's more disarming than these presentations can be. And then the second thing I do, which is a little bit odd, is I use my physical size to intimidate them so that they're afraid to get up. So I'd put them in a situation where if they wanted to walk in front, if they had to leave the room, they had to walk in front of me, and I would be so big and so close to them that they'd be afraid to do so. And most people, I'm bigger than most people, so that's usually how it works. The law of the jungle is still very much real.
Yeah. So, Mark, great answer. Remind me never to sit next to you on a plane.
There's a reason we do this remotely.
Yes, because now if I'm in a room, I just need to make sure that I've used the restroom before I come into the room, I guess. Well, so some great advice. Absolutely love the won't win it in the room. You can only lose it in the room. I think that that is really, really very, very key and a very important point. Love the fact that you engage early. But let's do just a little bit of this role play. So, because I think that our listeners might have been in this situation. So the CFO is there, and what is their favorite thing to say? Price is too high. Price is too high. How would you, in the moment, answer that so that our listeners can learn? Your price is too high, Mark. I mean, it's outrageous. It's just way too high. We like the program. It's just way too high.
The way I would address that, and the way I have addressed that, is the risk of not getting the reward. That's the price. That's what the price is. The price covers the risk of not getting the reward. And when I'm putting together programs with dozens, if not hundreds of people and technology that integrates within their business, the risk of not succeeding far outweighs any price that's involved. So on a unit or an incremental basis, you can always buy the pieces that I have anywhere else for pennies on the dollar. It's the integration and the confidence in the outcomes that are what matters, and that's where the price goes.
I agree with Mark in this. When people get afraid of the price, or when they look at the price, they say, "I love the value that you're bringing. I'm just afraid of the price." The issue is not a fear of price. The issue is the issue Mark said, which is confidence. What is the confidence in yield? And they're trying to manage their confidence by reducing their price. If you knew with 100% certainty that if I gave you a dollar, or if you gave me a dollar, forgive me, if you gave me a dollar, I would give you $100 back, you would just try to figure out how many single dollars you could give me. All right. But if you, every moment that you are less comfortable, right, the less that you're going to be willing to get, to provide to me. It's an issue of certainty of outcome, especially when you can represent your benefit in a very financial, economic set of statistics and criteria for evaluation.
I'll tell you where the problem with price comes into play in these types of program presentations. It's not today. It's in 360 days when I'm coming back for a renewal. And all of a sudden, you've had procurement involved, and procurement's going to come to you and say, "We have this Forrester research that says these FTE skill sets cost this much per hour, and these types of deliverables cost this much per piece, and your stuff costs 4 times as much. What do you do then?" And this is one actually slightly shameless plug, because Tom had developed a tool a while back that used to be part of, I'm not sure what you call it now, Tom. It used to be called Key Account Growth Plans. Remember the tool where it was it's the where you're always sliding down to the left and becoming more of a commodity, and the name of the game is to re-innovate, to keep pushing yourself up to the right. It's part of the fog analysis, I think.
It's part of KG. It's for key account growth, but yeah, it's part of the fog analysis. What it really does is it does an analysis of where your value perception inside of an account and who becomes involved in it. Because we're always moved from, once the CEO or the whoever it is that's involved in this has decided to invest by signing the contract, they really try to hand it off to someone else, not out of any other desire except for the fact that they've got a new problem on their desk that they have to solve, because they felt by hiring you that problem was gone. And then you lose connection to your executive sponsor, and all of a sudden you're chasing your value 360 days later. And boy, I'll tell you, that renewal part, I couldn't agree with Mark more. At 360 days later, if you didn't set it up front, you are going to go fight for it on the back end, and you're going to be stuck with hell's spawn.
Tom, Tom, Tom. One other question for Mark. So, Mark, how do you follow up after a meeting like this? And who do you follow up with? So, what would you do? You've done this presentation, you think you've hit it out of the ballpark. The CEO could never move because you were right in their grill. But how do you follow up after?
It's easy. We ladder up. So in the meeting, the last part about in the meeting I didn't mention was, while we're in the room, we need to make our champion, our sponsor, not our executive sponsor, but certainly our sponsor champion, look like a superstar. So that's the unstated strategy for this in the room, but with the team ahead of time, is all positive roads lead back to our champion. So that's really important. And then on the follow up on the outbound side, it's a laddering game. So we have an account director that's running the entire program and running the entire process. That person connects with our sponsor. I connect with the CEO and the CFO, and then we kind of line it up with regard to the other technical folks that are in the room, if they're subject matter experts or whatnot. So it's a direct one. The connection is it's probably an email and a follow-on call. I always make sure we have executive admins contact information when we do these programs. So we reach out to the executive admin and say, as a courtesy follow-up, we're going to have a 15-minute debrief with Tom to make sure if any questions were unresolved or any issues occurred in the middle of the night worrying about how to explain this to the analysts, we're happy to address those, and that would be the direct follow-up to close the loop.
Perfect. Well, we can tell that you have done this many, many times. So thanks for sharing your secrets with us. All right, Tom, are you ready? There's a rabbi, a priest, and a dog, and they go into a bar. What do you do?
I walk in the door and I sit down with all of them. I said, so good to see all of you. I just don't even know you very well, but let's talk about sports.
Okay, so Tom, your sponsor is afraid. So you're advising a CRO. We're not going to call him Kyle. We're going to call him Charlie. So Charlie um, brought you in because he wants to improve the close rate of his company. So you're meeting with him. You're in his office. You have not spoken to the CEO. You know that eventually that CEO needs to sign off on all of this information, but he's like afraid. He's worried that if the CEO really found out that, she may fire him. So the CEO, let's call her Tiffany, medium age Tiffany, pokes her head in and says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were busy."
I stand up and introduce myself. I say, "Hi, it's nice to meet you. I'm Tom Searcy. I'm from Hunt Big Sales. I'm glad. I know that at some point in the conversation we were going to connect, so I'm glad it's now." And I said, "It's interesting. Charlie and I were just talking about your growth initiative and how it is that we might be able to craft a good solution around really doubling the double, which is the speed with which you close that business. And we were just beginning to work through how that's been successful in the past. I'd love to, if you can join us for just a couple minutes, love to go ahead and talk about that. Or we can schedule a time sometime in the near future because Charlie and I were going to finish this out. And then probably I'd come back with a more enriched presentation.
I'll tell you what, you had me at double the double. So I really, really liked that. And you didn't throw Charlie under the bus, which is absolutely great. So what would you say? I'm just going to throw a little curve. Well, really it's Charlie's thing. Thanks for the info. I don't need to be involved.
Thanks so much. It's great to meet with you. I want to make certain that we put appropriate information in Charlie's hands to review with you. And so, what are some of the things that would be important for me from your mindset? And Charlie and I will talk about it, that you would like to see in anything that we communicate going forward.
Yeah, I think Charlie knows that. I'm going to see you guys later.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it for all the time that you've given. In this very short moment, which you interrupted a meeting that was much more important than whatever the hell you had to say. No, you take a swing at the plate, you take another swing at the plate, but you're not selling cars, and you got a CEO who stepped in the door. You go back to Charlie and say, "Oh, what a lovely CEO that person is." Obviously, they have an enormous amount of faith and confidence in you. You can't get fired for buying from me. Move on. Put on your big boy pants and sign a check. Is that a little rough for a first meeting?
Maybe for Charlie. Charlie may be going, "Oh, heck."
What I'm trying to do is provide a kind of a soft landing for Charlie. I've tried to engage the CEO, but saying that Charlie is the one who's investigating and Charlie is not made a decision. He's looking at it. I've tried to make in that whole conversation the CEO's participation hinged on Charlie's involvement and power position, opening a couple of doors for the CEO. There can't be a penalty to the CRO for the interaction with the CEO.
Wait, I want to hear if Tiffany likes some of the scenarios. She gave us feedback. She gave me feedback on my scenario. What did you think of Mark's scenario and how he handled it, and then Tom, how he handled it? Like, does it resonate with you, or do you think they totally missed the boat?
So I think they all resonated with me. I think though that if I was asked a specific question in a meeting where it was the team and the team had been more involved, I would probably direct it more to the team to see what they would say. That's just kind of my personal style. And hopefully you would get the hint that yes, you can direct things to me, but this is a team presentation. So again, much more maybe my personal style than others, but no, they all resonated with me. And I think that, if I were to kind of wrap up this section with tips, I think the one thing that weaves through all of these is you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared with that short elevator speech, the long one, really importantly, and you all did it, know who brought you to the dance and make them look good. So every single one of you, even though you ran into somebody higher up, you never threw the other person under the bus and you brought them with you, which is really, really important. Mark, I think you specifically said our goal, our strategy is to make that sponsor really, really look good when they're in the room. And Tom, you said it. Monique, you brought that in also, which is make sure that the rest of the team and especially that sponsor always looks good. And I think the other thing is, and I brought this up with Mark, let them know early and often why they should care. Because we don't really care why you care, but I do want to know why I should care. Because this whole kind of dance and this whole game around deals, it's about the less access and knowledge you have means that I have more of that power. And I think that gets me a better deal. So all of that, I think, goes into some of these tips. But no, I really, really enjoyed these sessions. I think our listeners got a lot out of these scenarios. So, Tom, I'm going to kick it back to you.
One of the things that came out of this conversation, I think we sometimes take for granted, and we shouldn't. And that is, all of us speak with a certain level of familiarity with what the the CXO has. And because of that, we have a lot more comfort, relaxation, or confidence when we speak to them. There's a peer-to-peer voice that we've got right now. And I go back to something we've talked about in other episodes, and that's developing a certain courage and facility in executive language. Mark says, my CXO conversations are all the same. I talk about money, right? And I personally, I believe that you're always talking about money. It's just what the flavor of that money may be. Maybe it's an issue of efficiency. Maybe it's speed to market for money, which I would reach out to Monique and say one of the things that she does, having worked with her, is that she knows how to say, it's nice that we can improve your marketing and all the rest of that. How do we increase your speed to money inside of all things that are out there? Yours in the background, I know, has an awful lot to do with reach and those kinds of things. So I think that confidence in that language is really important. We take that a little bit of for granted, but I know that salespeople, if they bump into somebody at McDonald's, can sometimes take a one up, one down position and not have the comfort of the courage to, hey, let's go ahead and get connected in a particular way. Or in Mark's case, he has to gear people up to have a conversation with a CEO in the room. So this happens. And I think it's just, it's practice, it's good coaching, it's all those kinds of things. I was going to ask Monique and Mark, what is the hurdle? Everybody wants to know, how do I get to the CEO?
It's not always necessary, and the firm that you're working with may not see it as necessary. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so if we put CEO, CXO, what we're looking for is the person who can sign on the line that is dotted. Yeah, right, and has the urgency to get the problem solved.
What's the hurdle? It's usually time on their calendar, or the intimidate in my mind, or the person that you're currently working with, the sponsor for now, may not have the juice that they need to step into the room and be part of that conversation credibly. If it's like, sometimes I'll work with a high level marketer, not necessarily, sometimes they have a CMO, sometimes they don't. That person is layered by two other people before they get to the CEO or the C-suite.
So I think a couple things. The first thing you have to be able to do to the hurdle that you have to overcome is you have to solve a problem that is material to the CEO. And that's not a trivial act, because CEOs tend to live in the future. They don't live in the present. They're living where the ball is going, and they have people to deal with what the current mess is going on in the business. So I think that's the first thing, is you actually have to solve a problem that's relevant and material to the CEO, and you need to do it in a language that they're going to understand. Which means you need to speak CEO speak. So I think those are two. Let's the old line that Tom always drops: "You get sent to who you sound like." I do agree. I think that, I don't know which one of y'all said it, but there are times when I will purposefully not engage a CEO in a room when it's a CMO call. We do a lot of work with, like, a ton of networking work to get into the C suites, because there's just no easy way to walk in there. And I've actually come in through the board before, and it's too high to get to the point where you're actually trying to solve a different relevance problem. So there is no magic bullet to it, but I think when you say that, what's the hurdle to it for the CEO, the C whatever XO, it's solving that relevant material problem in a way that you can, create confidence there.
On the sales side of it, we are in the world of tips and tricks. Everybody's got a story of how they got to the biggest deal they've ever done. They usually have a story where it went down in flames, right? Like worst call. I mean, it's interesting. Almost all of us can get the first thing we can get to is if you ask me, where did you get down in flames? You're like, okay, are we going to do this categorically, historically? How do you want me to go through the inventory of my failures? But here's the thing, you're the buyer on fire. All right. A lot of time we went down on flames because we crossed a line that's one of your pet peeves, one of the things that annoys you and closes us out. Can you tell us behind the curtain, what are some of your pet peeves?
I would say the biggest one is when people are unprepared. So they come in, they're not prepared because it's like I'm giving you my time. I expect a certain level of respect back, and that respect is that you're prepared. If I'm prepared, I expect the people in the room to be prepared. I would say also not giving all the information. So some people just want to hold on and they're like, I've got some, but I'm just going to piece it to you. I'm only going to give you this little bit, even though I'm asking for like the bigger information. Anyone who's arrogant bashes the competition. I've actually had people tell me, and more than one company who has said, it really, we're just trying to put you out of business, or I'm going to your competitor because this is going to put you out of business if I do business with them. That I what all I see is a red flame when when people tell me that. But it's amazing how many people will kind of think that that's going to motivate to go with them or to somehow trust them more. It has the total opposite effect. And so those are just some of my kind of pet peeves that for me are will absolutely set a deal going the other way.
Mark, Monique, give me the same for you. You've been sold to by a bunch of folks. Now, knowing nobody wants a gun to their head. No one's wants taken hostage, and Tiffany knows about being taken. Someone trying to take hostage by saying, "I'm going to put you out of business," and so therefore you have to buy from me. Man, I'm just trying to imagine where that's going to be successful. It's a pet peeve. If you told me that was the most successful way to get a piece of business, I'd used it. I mean, I'm shameless. I only look for those things that are effective. But Monique and Mark, are there some other key pet peeves that you throw there?
A couple years ago, I was in the market for a new ERP system for my company. And it was one of those deals where you had to decide between do you go with a professional service automation based system that's very specialized, or do you go with something specifically like a company from, say, like, what Oracle or SAP puts together? And the inside salesperson from Oracle had gotten wind that we were doing this, and because we were looking for information for different companies. And she actually did some research and found out I played baseball in college. And she sent me a miniature bat, a miniature wooden bat, something like, with a note that said, like, we'll help you knock it out of the park with, Oracle Cloud, whatever their software is. Anyways, so I got that. I'm looking at this. I'm thinking to myself, now I appreciate the sentiment, right? So hey, I care enough to at least look at your LinkedIn profile. Gee, but do you really think sending me a freaking wooden bat that's this long is gonna, like? It's not like she sent me a bat that was signed by Mickey Mantle. That might be different. But do you really think this is going to sway a multi-million dollar decision that's going to direct the future outcome of my firm's ability to scale? Like how dumb do you think? Like how shallow do you think I am? You know what I mean? Like that's not the right answer. And by the way, there are no steps to the limit of my shallowness.
So where's the pet peeve in that? It's the underestimation of your intellect, or it's the overestimation of like a kitschy, stupid door entry.
It's like how how the Americans bought Manhattan for some trinkets from the poor Native Americans. It's that. You know what I'm saying?
My pet peeve is simple. It's just I think Tiffany said it. It's unpreparedness, and it's the taking for granted of time. It's your valuable time. Don't and the yo Monique, if you guys remember that story, it's like you don't even yo. First of all, don't yo me, and second of all, you know nothing about my business. You've used buzzwords, and the introduction email has like buzzword, 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 cliche, buzzword, cliche, buzzword, cliche. What do you do and why should I care?
I think I think your Northeastern sensibilities have gotten you overly sensitive to the term yo Monique.
So I'm going to throw my own in. There was a period of time starting up a company, and so I had Herman Miller and Steelcase and Knoll Furnitures that were coming in and pitching me. And I had on the telecom side, I was competing with AT&T and at that time MCI and other companies. So I'm getting wined and dined. I'm getting, because we're everything we're talking about is a 7-figure deal, right? And so I'm looking at, these Fortune 500 companies or Fortune fill in the blank companies as they're presenting. All right. And AT&T came in and they walked in with a deck. It was a binder of crap about all of what they did, da 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 da. And they wanted me to buy their services, their equipment, all the rest of it. It's been a 7, maybe over the course of 3 years, probably 8-figure kind of a contract. The next folks that came in, MCI, they came in with 5 pages, all right, easy to read, and a pen and paper. That was it. They asked the questions, they talked about what they did and they said, I don't want to tell you what we could do for you at this point, but we've got some good ideas. I'll be back with our engineers and our finance people. Let's set a time to come back and really talk about how we fit into what your business plan is. That was like amazing. We had another case where, in that case, we were put on a jet. Loved that. Put on a private plane, flown up to Michigan, where it seems like they keep all the wood because that's where they make all the stuff. And I won't tell you which one of them did it, but took us up there, went through the facility, went through all the different things, get on the plane, start to head back. They have chilled champagne on the plane so that when we agree to the deal, they can open the bottle of champagne. And they said, this is for you. Let's close this deal now. And the other person came in and brought in a gift model, talked about where it was, talked about how it would vary and the things that we could do and why it would be flexible and etc. They didn't bring any champagne, so that was a knock against them. We bought all their stuff. Why? Because it was all focused. So forgive me for going along, but what do you hear in both of those things? Customization, personalization, no push until they knew what we needed.
The plane story, by the way, I love companies that show that basically bring the back of the house and make it the front of the house and make how they make what they make a showcase. I think those companies win. Those are great companies.
Yeah, they really are. We learned a lot going to the first company because it was a high quality. I mean, look, I'm talking about Herman Miller and I'm talking about Steelcase. These are so these are big, kinds of opportunities there. Having said that, one was focused on us and one was focused on them. So, okay, let's close this out. This has been a really great session. Tiffany, how? We just want to get to you. You're the CEO. You got $1 billion of business or $2 billion of a company that you're running.
I would say, some of the ways that are great to get in front of me, one, any referral from a friend, anybody that I know, and even if I know them just in a very casual way or maybe have met them at a meeting, if they give me a referral, ask me to talk to someone, whether that be one of their kids, a friend of their kids, someone who's trying to sell me something, I always give that person a meeting. Even if it's something that I know maybe I'm not interested, maybe I know I'm not going to get anything from this, but I feel that it's just a very nice courtesy that I extend and that when I ask people, I always get that extension also. So if there is a way to find out someone who knows me, that you know them, that will refer, that to me is probably the best way to get in. Also, I think that the after hours emails, Monique and I talked about that, the Sunday email, the late Tuesday night so that it pops up on a Wednesday morning. Those types of things also get the attention because they're right there in the inbox. The other thing that tell me why I need to care very quickly. If I'm walking in a mall and somebody comes up and says, "Oh, hey, I wanted to introduce myself, blah, blah, blah," gets quickly why I care. Can I get, 15 minutes with you next week? That is going to work for me. So those are just some of the kind of secrets, but the biggest one is kind of that warm referral. If you can get that, that usually really is a good in.
I think you hit on something as we close out here, and that is that in the future of AI and other kinds of digital analysis out in the marketplace, connections and relationships will be the highest currency. So our ability to make those connections and get with people who get us to people and etc., that's going to be an increasing value of currency. It's always been high, but when we start to generate all sorts of AI generated communication and analytics and etc., what's going to still trump that will be reaching into networks and talking to people who will talk to people. Great session on all of this. We all want to be behind this, the closed door and the secrets of the buyer on fire. This is never going to be a tired topic. Most everybody here believes you held something back. It's because nobody believes that buyers are, there's an old statement, not one I use, that says buyers are liars. And what it is that buyers are protective. And so we're going to want to know more about that. But out of today's episode, I want to thank everybody who listened, and don't forget to subscribe and hit like
And share.
and don't forget, Monique said share. But we wish everybody the best with their next big sale. Big Sale Illuminati, we're out.
Thanks for listening to the Big Sale Illuminati podcast. If you like this episode, give us a thumbs up and let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Until our next episode, best wishes on your big sales.